All right, let's get straight into it. You're here because of a breakup. You know, the score, the anger, the sadness, maybe obsessing a bit.
Uh-huh. Replaying things, wondering how to get her back, or maybe even, make her feel bad about it.
Yeah, all that stuff. We see it all the time. But look, that's not the path forward. That's not real strength.
No, it really isn't.
So today we're doing a deep dive into what actually works, what gets you genuinely free. Right. And it boils down to one thing.
Indifference.
Exactly, indifference. And hey, if you're serious about moving on, about actually reclaiming your life, make sure you hit subscribe. You won't want to miss this.
And we're not talking about pretending you don't care. That's just theater. We mean getting to a place, like really getting there, where your ex, her life, her choices, they just don't impact your peace.
Right. Your focus stays on you, on your future. Her existence becomes, well, irrelevant to your day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. It's about understanding how indifference actually strips away her power over your emotions.
Gives you back your mental clarity, too. Frees up so much space.
And it's basically the final stage, the proof that you've genuinely moved past it.
Okay, let's break that down. The core idea here, and it's crucial, is that the opposite of love. It's not hate.
No, absolutely not. It's indifference.
People get that twisted. They think feeling angry or hateful means they're strong or detached, but...
But it doesn't. Hate, anger, obsession. These things still tie you to her. They create this intense emotional connection, even if it's negative.
You're still spending energy on her. She's still living rent-free in your head.
Right, exactly. Indifference is like changing the locks. It's complete detachment. No more energy flows that way.
Because think about it, every time you react, whether it's lashing out or sending that sad text, or even just hoping she sees your great new life.
You're giving her feedback. You're showing her she can still push your buttons.
You're essentially handing over the controls. She stays in charge of your emotional state, maybe without even trying.
Precisely. Every reaction confirms her significance in your mind. Indifference, it's radio silence. She gets nothing, no data. Her influence just evaporates.
And the payoff for you, personally, is huge. It's mental freedom. Seriously.
Oh, absolutely. The constant loop of overthinking things, replaying arguments, wondering what if.
Yeah.
It's incredibly draining.
Yeah, it consumes you. Indifference cuts that off. It stops the mental gymnastics.
Think about all that brain power you get back. When you genuinely reach a point of not caring about her actions, those thoughts just lose their grip. Her stuff becomes background noise.
Which leads to the real sign you're over it. Indifference isn't something you perform. It's the end result.
You can tell yourself whatever you want, but how do you really feel when her name comes up or you hear she's dating someone new?
That's the acid test, isn't it?
It is. True indifference means you're no longer invested in her story. You're focused on yours. When her life updates just don't land, don't trigger anything, that's genuine freedom.
Yeah. Super important point here. This isn't about revenge. We're not talking about making her jealous or showing off. That's kid stuff.
Right. The goal isn't to punish her or win some imaginary competition. The goal is your liberation, your peace.
If anything you're doing is still motivated by getting a reaction from her, then guess what?
She still owns a piece of you.
Exactly. Indifference is about severing that connection entirely. For you.
And let's also be clear, indifference is not the same as hate or bitterness.
Yeah, some guys get stuck there. They think being constantly angry means they're winning.
But hate is still an incredibly strong emotional tie. It keeps you anchored to the past, constantly feeding that negative energy. It's exhausting in its own way.
Right. It's still all about her.
Indifference is neutrality. It's like stepping off the emotional battlefield altogether. You're just not engaged.
And getting there, it's not passive. It doesn't just happen. It takes work. Real mental discipline.
It really does. It requires emotional mastery, choosing consciously where you direct your energy. It's about deciding not to react.
It's a genuine shift in perspective, not just pretending.
And it's not about becoming numb or shutting down your feelings entirely. That's not healthy either.
Good point. It's not suppression.
No, it's more about processing the pain and the loss, but without that constant emotional entanglement. It's letting go of the need for her validation or for some kind of cosmic closure.
Dropping the baggage.
Precisely. Acknowledging what happened, learning from it maybe, but not letting it define you or hold you back. You look back and it just is. No charge.
Okay, so that's the why. Indifference is the goal. How the hell do you actually cultivate it? Let's get into the practical no BS blueprint.
Right, the actionable steps.
Step 1, and this is non-negotiable. Cut. Off. the triggers. Go full ghost mode.
This is absolutely fundamental. You simply cannot cultivate indifference while you're constantly poking the wound, so to speak. You need distance.
That means unfollow, block, mute, everywhere.
Yeah.
Social media, phone, everything.
Don't hesitate.
And delete the old stuff, the messages, the photos. This isn't about being mean. It's about sanitizing your own mental space.
Every time you see her name or picture, it's a potential trigger. It can pull you right back into old thought patterns. Cutting those lines is about protecting your progress.
Yeah, and it goes beyond just her direct contact. Stop asking mutual friends how she's doing. Seriously, stop it.
Resist that temptation. It serves no purpose other than keeping her relevant in your mind.
And here's a subtle one. Stop checking in with yourself every 5 minutes to see, am I indifferent yet? That's still focusing on her.
That's a great point. That self-monitoring actually backfires. True indifference isn't something you achieve by tracking it. It happens when she genuinely fades from your focus because you're busy elsewhere.
Which brings us neatly to step 2. Build a life that is genuinely bigger and more interesting than she was. Level up your own game.
If she was the center of your emotional world, her absence creates a vacuum. Indifference grows when you actively fill that space with things that matter to you.
So what does that look like? Get back into hobbies. Find new ones.
Set some real goals. Fitness, career, learning a skill, things that build you up.
Expand your social circle. Not just dating, but friends, connections. Build a richer life.
It's about redefining who you are, separate from that relationship. It builds confidence, self-worth, and makes you less dependent on anyone else for your happiness.
It's real self-investment, not just distracting yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, third key part of this initial strategy. Emotional detachment. Letting go without apology.
This sounds cold, maybe, but it isn't. It's about managing those dependencies. Releasing the narrative that keeps you hooked.
What does that mean in practice?
It means truly accepting the breakup is final. No lingering hope for reconciliation pulling you back.
Okay.
It means noticing when thoughts about her come up, but choosing not to engage with them emotionally. Acknowledge, then redirect your focus. Practice neutrality.
So not fighting the thoughts, but not feeding them either.
Precisely. You're breaking the habit of emotional reaction. You're freeing yourself from needing her validation or approval for your own feelings. You own your emotional state.
Got it. Okay, we're about halfway through unpacking this. If this is resonating, if you're ready to really move forward, take a second and hit that subscribe button. We've got more ground to cover.
Yeah, stick with us.
All right, so you start doing these things. You go ghost, you build your life, you practice detachment. What actually happens? What are the real wins when you master indifference?
Well, the first and most immediate is emotional freedom.
What does that feel like?
It feels like you're no longer on that emotional roller coaster dictated by her actions or perceived actions. You become essentially emotionally bulletproof to her.
So she posts something online or you hear she did something and it just doesn't land.
Exactly. No more analyzing texts for hidden meanings. No more mood crashes based on her life. You're stable. You control your own narrative.
You're living in the present for yourself, not as a reaction to her.
You're no longer an emotional prisoner.
And that naturally leads to emotional power, right? Not power over her, but power over yourself.
Yes, precisely. It's reclaiming your emotional autonomy. When you stop feeding the situation with your emotional energy, you starve it.
You're no longer playing those draining push-pull games. You're not vulnerable to manipulation because you genuinely don't care about the outcome she might want.
You've broken that dependency. Her approval, her attention, they become irrelevant to your sense of self.
You become unbothered. And that in itself is a powerful position to be in.
It really is. You've essentially cut the puppet strings. You're off her stage.
And there's a deeper change too, isn't there? A kind of personal transformation. Let's call it emotional evolution.
Yes, I think that's a good term. It's about who you become through this process. You shed that version of yourself that was perhaps overly dependent or defined by the relationship.
You step into a stronger identity.
Exactly. You rediscover your own purpose, your own sources of happiness, independent of anyone else. You build true emotional resilience.
You learn from the pain. You don't just endure it.
Right. The past loses its power to define you. You turn that pain into strength, into self-awareness. You emerge more grounded, more self-assured.
And the ultimate payoff for all this, what's the final state?
Emotional liberation.
Sounds good. What is it?
It's being completely free from the baggage. No more resentment simmering under the surface. No more replaying regrets. No more needing closure from her.
You're just free.
You're free from the illusions, the fantasies, the what-ifs. You accept the reality of what happened, you've processed it, and it no longer weighs you down.
You're not just surviving the breakup, you're actually thriving beyond it.
Yes, you're living an emotional truth, operating from a place of strength and independence, ready to build your future on your own terms.
Okay, that sounds like the place to be. But let's be honest, getting there can feel, well, impossible sometimes, even when you get the concept.
Absolutely. Understanding it intellectually is one thing, achieving it emotionally is another. There are common blocks.
Let's talk about those. What stops guys from reaching indifference? One big one seems to be chasing closure.
That persistent need to understand exactly why things ended, to get all the answers, to have that neat final conversation.
You keep replaying events, analyzing, thinking if you just understood that one thing, you can move on.
But often that perfect closure is an illusion. You might never get the answers you seek, or they might not satisfy you even if you did. It keeps you focused on the past, seeking something external.
So what's the alternative?
Acceptance. Accepting that some questions might remain unanswered, focusing on your internal sense of resolution, reclaiming your own story rather than waiting for hers.
Makes sense. Another block. Still needing her validation.
Yes, consciously or unconsciously waiting for her to admit she was wrong or to show regret or to somehow acknowledge how much she hurt you.
Which basically means your self-worth is still tied to her opinion.
Exactly. You're giving her the power to validate you. The key is to reclaim that power internally. Validate yourself. Build your self-worth based on your own actions and character, independent of her view.
And then there's the trap of romanticizing the past, right? Only remembering the good stuff.
Oh, definitely. The highlight reel starts playing and you forget the arguments, the incompatibilities, the reasons it didn't work.
You get attached to this idealized memory, this fantasy.
You need to consciously confront the full picture, the good and the bad. Separate the idealized fantasy from the emotional reality of the relationship, including the parts that led to the end. Accept the loss of what actually was, not just the dream.
And the last big one, holding on to hope. Even a tiny sliver.
This is maybe the hardest for some, that little voice saying, maybe she'll realize, maybe things will change, maybe we can try again.
It keeps you emotionally paralyzed, waiting.
It does. You can't fully commit to your own future if you're subconsciously keeping the door cracked for the past. You have to emotionally accept the finality, stop looking for signs or hidden messages, disconnect from that false hope to truly move forward.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's try and boil it down.
The core takeaway is pretty clear.
Yeah. True freedom after a breakup isn't about revenge. It's not about getting her back. It's about getting to that place of genuine indifference where she just doesn't matter to your peace anymore.
It's all about your emotional liberation, taking back your power, your focus, your energy, and pouring it into building your life, your future.
So for everyone listening, here's the challenge. Forget the grand gestures for now. What is one small, concrete thing you can do today? Right now or later today. One specific action to start cultivating that indifference.
Just one thing to nudge yourself forward.
Think about that. And look, if this deep dive gave you some clarity, some direction, do yourself a favor and subscribe. We'll be back with more.